My best friend's father was a monster hiding in plain sight, and it all came to a head with a single late night phone call that would either save my life or shatter my most important friendship forever. My friend's name is Liam, and our bond was forged in kindergarten over a shared box of crayons. For more than a decade, his house was my second home, my sanctuary. It was the scent of freshly cut grass from the yard, the deep, worn leather of the recliner in the den, and the comforting glow of the television during late night movie marathons. It was my escape, and the master of that escape was Liam's father, David. For as long as I could remember, David was the quintessential cool dad. He was the one organizing neighborhood cookouts, his deep, easy laugh, the soundtrack to our summers. He never treated me like a guest or just Liam's tag-along friend. He made me feel like part of the family, like a second daughter. He possessed a disarming charisma, a way of listening with his whole body that made you feel like your teenage anxieties were the most profound observations in the world. I accepted his kindness without question, feeling only a deep sense of gratitude for this family that had so effortlessly folded me into their lives. That sense of safety began to unravel about 3 months ago. The change was almost imperceptible at first, like a single note played off key in a familiar song. It started with text messages, always arriving when Liam was occupied, usually at football practice or out with his girlfriend. "Hey Ava, just making sure everything's okay? Is Liam with you?" A perfectly reasonable message. I would text back a quick no and think nothing of it. But then the messages started coming at odd hours, late on a school night when I knew Liam was home, likely just upstairs playing video games. "Hey sunshine, thinking of you. Hope you had a good day." The first time a text like that came through, I smiled. It felt paternal and sweet. I told myself he was probably feeling the impending quiet of the house, with Liam being a senior and getting ready to leave for college. He was just reaching out. I would send back a brief, polite response and push it from my mind. Soon, the texts evolved into phone calls. I would be hunched over my laptop, wrestling with a calculus problem, and my screen would light up with his name. On the surface, the conversations were harmless, but they carried a strange, probing undercurrent. He moved past the usual questions about my grades and started digging into my personal life. He asked for my thoughts on current events, my secret ambitions, my definition of a happy and meaningful existence. It was a level of emotional intimacy that felt entirely out of place coming from my best friend's dad. Yet I rationalized it. I had always been the old soul, the responsible friend. I convinced myself he simply saw me as a sounding board, someone more grounded than the other kids in Liam's orbit. The moment the foundation of my denial cracked was a Tuesday night, close to midnight. My phone buzzed on my nightstand, the screen casting an eerie blue light on the ceiling. Seeing David flash on the display sent a jolt of ice water through my veins. My first panicked thought was that something had happened to Liam. My heart hammered against my ribs as I swiped to answer. "Hello? David? Is everything okay?" His voice was different. It was slow and low, almost a drawl, stripped of its usual cheerful energy. "Everything is perfect, Ava. I'm sorry I didn't wake you, did I?" "No, I'm awake," I said, my voice thin as I sat up in bed. "Is Liam okay?" A long, calculated pause stretched across the line. I could hear the muffled sound of a late-night talk show in the background. "Liam is sound asleep. I was just up. My mind was racing. You know how it is. And well, I found myself thinking of you." Those words hung in the air, foreign and heavy in the stillness of my bedroom. "You were thinking about me?" "I was," he confirmed, his voice dropping into a more confidential register. "I was thinking about the way you handle yourself. You're so poised, not like the other girls your age. You have this presence about you. It's very captivating." I was speechless. A hot, shameful blush crawled up my neck and spread across my face. "Oh, well, thank you. Are you seeing anyone special these days?" he asked. The question was so direct, so staggeringly inappropriate that it felt like a slap. "No, not really. I'm just trying to keep my grades up for college applications," I mumbled, feeling like my mouth was full of cotton. "That's a real tragedy," he almost purred, and the sound sent a wave of revulsion through me. "A truly lovely young woman like you shouldn't be all alone." The conversation continued for 10 more excruciating minutes. It was a surreal, one-sided inquiry into my friendships, my feelings about boys, and my plans for the future. I gave him clipped, one-word answers, desperate for it to end. When I finally mumbled an excuse and hung up, I sat in the darkness, my mind reeling. That wasn't a lonely father looking for conversation. The way he had said lovely young woman felt possessive. It felt predatory. It was deeply fundamentally wrong. It happened again the next night, and the one after. The late night calls became a dreaded ritual. I began ignoring them, my heart seizing in my chest each time my phone lit up with his name. He started leaving voicemails, each one a masterclass in manipulation. Just wanted to hear your voice, hope I didn't say anything to bother you. Then he followed me to social media, sending me direct messages with links to articles or songs, with captions like, "This reminded me of our talks." He was methodically inserting himself into every corner of my world, and I felt like I was suffocating. I was frantic to tell Liam, but the words wouldn't form. How do you even begin a conversation like that? "Hey, I think your dad is hitting on me." He would think I was crazy, or worse, a liar. He idolized his father. Telling him felt like planting a bomb in the middle of our friendship, and I was too terrified to light the fuse. So I stayed silent, carrying the ugly secret, hoping it would simply fade away. It didn't. It got worse. The absolute breaking point came last Saturday. Liam and I were in the den, our usual spot, sprawled on the couch surrounded by empty soda cans and chip bags, deep into a video game marathon. We were yelling at the screen, laughing, completely lost in our own little world. David had been upstairs, and eventually he came down carrying a large bowl of popcorn. "Still saving the galaxy down here?" he asked, his smile looking completely benign. "We're trying," Liam shouted, his focus locked on the game. "This alien queen is about to turn Ava into space dust." David chuckled and set the bowl on the coffee table. Liam, having reached a checkpoint in the game, vaulted off the couch. "I'm grabbing another soda. You want one?" he asked me. I nodded, and he bounded up the short flight of stairs to the kitchen. The instant his footsteps faded, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The air grew thick and still, charged with an energy that made the hair on my arms stand up. David didn't go back upstairs. He walked over and sat on the couch right beside me. Not on the other end, but directly next to me. He was so close I could feel the warmth radiating from his leg, his knee only an inch from mine. I subtly shifted away, trying to create a sliver of space without making a scene. He didn't seem to notice my retreat. He just watched me with a slow, knowing smirk. It wasn't his friendly, paternal smile. This was something else. This was the smile of a predator assessing its prey. "You know," he began, his voice a low murmur that was almost lost beneath the game's ambient music, "Liam is a lucky young man to have a friend like you. You're such a positive force in his life." "He's a great guy," I said, forcing my gaze to stay fixed on the television, pretending to be fascinated by the glowing pause menu. "He is," David agreed, "but you have a certain light about you, a fire. You're going to be a remarkable woman." He leaned in a fraction of an inch closer. The scent of his aftershave, a sharp, clean scent I once associated with fatherly hugs, now felt cloying and invasive. "You are an exquisitely beautiful young woman," he said, his gaze tracing the line of my jaw and coming to rest on my mouth. "The boys at your school must be fools not to see it." I managed a tight, strangled sound that was meant to be a laugh. "I'm not really focused on that stuff right now." He leaned closer still, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, as if we were sharing a profound secret. "If I were 20 years younger," he said, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that felt like a physical weight, "a man could get into a world of trouble for thinking the kinds of thoughts I have about you." The world tilted on its axis. Every muscle in my body went rigid. It wasn't a joke, it wasn't a clumsy compliment. The look in his eyes, the possessive cadence of his voice, it was the final, horrifying confirmation of every fear that had been building inside me for weeks. I was not imagining this. This was real. A primal scream of "run" echoed in my head. I need to use the restroom," I stammered, scrambling off the couch so quickly I nearly sent the popcorn flying. I didn't look back as I bolted up the stairs, my heart beating a wild, painful rhythm against my sternum. I locked myself in the guest bathroom and stared at my own wide, panicked eyes in the mirror. What was I going to do? This was Liam's dad. This was the man whose home had been my haven. I splashed cold water on my face, taking deep, shuddering breaths, trying to quiet the frantic pounding in my chest. I felt defiled and completely hopelessly trapped. I hid in that bathroom for what felt like an hour. When I finally emerged, my nerves frayed to ribbons, Liam was back on the couch and David was in the kitchen, humming to himself as if nothing had happened. He glanced up at me and offered a casual, friendly smile, as if he hadn't just detonated my entire sense of security. I spent the rest of the afternoon in a state of high alert, meticulously avoiding his gaze, and made an excuse to leave hours earlier than I normally would. The moment I was in my car, a profound sense of relief washed over me. I was away from him. I was safe. And then my phone buzzed. It was a text from David. "It was wonderful talking with you today. You're truly blossoming into someone special. We should do it again soon." A wave of sickness churned in my stomach. He wasn't going to stop. He was getting more audacious. Ignoring him was only emboldening him. I didn't respond, but I lay awake all night, my mind a torture chamber, replaying his words, his look, and the sickening feeling of being trapped on that couch. The next day at school was a fog. I avoided Liam, claiming a migraine when he asked what was wrong. The secret felt like a stone in my gut, making it hard to breathe. Just looking at my best friend filled me with a toxic cocktail of guilt and terror. Then, that afternoon, the situation escalated from horrifying to terrifying. School had just let out, and I was walking to my car in the student lot. The sun was bright, students were laughing and shouting, and for a fleeting moment, everything felt normal. Then I saw it. Parked in a visitor spot near the main exit, positioned so I would have to walk right past it, was David's black SUV. The blood in my veins turned to ice. My first instinct was denial. He must be here for Liam. But Liam had his own truck. I had seen him drive away not 10 minutes before. As that thought solidified, he spotted me. He lifted a hand in a small, casual wave, and it was the most menacing gesture I had ever witnessed. He was waiting for me. He had come to my school, to my territory, and he was waiting. I froze, my sneakers feeling as if they were fused to the asphalt. My mind was a whiteout of panic. Turn around, go back inside, pretend you forgot a textbook. But I knew it was futile. He would just call me, then text me, then call me again. My phone vibrated in my pocket, confirming my dread. I pulled it out with a trembling hand, a message from him. "I see you. Come talk for a minute." Every instinct screamed at me to get in my car and speed away, but a darker, more pragmatic thought pushed through the fear. If I ran, what would he do? Would he go to Liam and twist the story, paint me as the one who was being strange and disrespectful? Would he make me the villain? A desperate, reckless impulse to reclaim some control, to finally confront this monster, took hold. With my heart pounding in my throat, I forced my legs to move toward his vehicle. The passenger side window glided down as I approached. "Hey there," he said, that same unsettling smile fixed on his face. "Hop in for a second. The air conditioning is on." "I really need to get home," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "It'll just take a minute," he insisted, his tone polite but firm, leaving no room for argument. He leaned across the center console and pushed the passenger door open from the inside. It was a summons. Feeling as though I were stepping into a snare, I got in. The heavy door clicked shut behind me, the sound sealing me inside the small, overheated space. The air was suffocatingly thick with his aftershave. He turned in his seat, angling his entire body toward me, his presence overwhelming the small cabin of the car. "I don't understand why you're avoiding me, Ava," he began, his voice laced with a fake theatrical hurt. "I thought we had a special connection. I thought you enjoyed our conversations. Did I do something to upset you?" I took a shaky breath, trying to summon my courage. "David, with all due respect, the calls showing up here, it's not right. You're my best friend's dad." He let out a soft, pitying sigh, as if I were a naive child who simply couldn't understand the complexities of the world. "I just appreciate you. Is that a crime? You're a good listener. You understand things. Liam's a great kid, but he's still just a kid." "I need you to stop," I said, my voice finding a fragile edge of steel. "The calls, the texts, all of it." Before I could say anything else, he reached out and put his hand on my knee. It was not a friendly gesture. His fingers settled there, a dead weight on my jeans, and then his thumb began to stroke back and forth in a slow, deliberate rhythm. I flinched as if I had been burned. "You're so tense," he murmured, his eyes fixed on my face. "You don't have to be afraid of me." That was it. That was the final line. I yanked my leg away and fumbled for the door handle. "I have to go," I choked out, my voice cracking with a mixture of fear and fury. "This is wrong." I didn't wait for a response. I shoved the door open and practically fell out of the SUV, stumbling the few feet to the safety of my own car. I got inside, locked the doors, and sat there, my hands shaking so violently I couldn't fit the key into the ignition. I felt like my heart was going to shatter my ribs. This wasn't just inappropriate, this was dangerous. The fear finally receded, replaced by a clean, white-hot rage. I was done being scared. I was done being silent. I pulled out my phone, my thumbs flying across the screen as I texted Liam, "We have to talk. It's an emergency. I am not kidding." He didn't answer for what felt like a lifetime. I drove home on pure instinct, the world outside my windshield a meaningless blur. I was done protecting Liam from this. I was done protecting David. This had gone too far. If telling the truth cost me my best friend, then that was a price I was now forced to pay. My own safety had to come first. Hours later, long after dark, my phone finally rang. It was Liam. "Hey, what's up?" he asked, his voice casual and unconcerned. "Your text said it was an emergency. Is everything okay?" I took a deep centering breath. This was it, the moment of truth. "No," I said, my voice low and level, all of its usual warmth gone. "No, Liam, nothing is okay. It's about your dad." There was a profound silence on the other end of the line, a long, heavy void that felt like it was pressing down on me. My stomach twisted into a painful knot. I braced myself for the explosion, for him to call me a liar, to scream at me, to hang up and erase our friendship from existence. Then finally he spoke. His voice was flat, devoid of any emotion, and colder than I had ever heard it in my life. "Ava," he said, "get over here now."